Victoria, so glad to get into the 7 steps that are outlined in your book, Transcending Fear. And the first step is
Gratitude.
gratitude.
Begin with gratitude.
Tell us how a person goes about beginning your with new book, which is Transcending Fear. There are 7 parts in it, and part 1 is about being grateful.
Right.
Appreciating what you have, being grateful.
Well, it's actually goes deeper than that. It's what I call begin with gratitude. So the reason I started with gratitude is because I was at a point in my life where I was severely depressed, had no money coming in. I had no idea how we would even be able to, feed our kids, or if we have a house to live in, because our house was in foreclosure. We were in the throes of bankruptcy, and my life was far from joyful. Let's put it that way. I was facing severe issues with depression. And rather than take medication for antidepressant, that wasn't a risk I was willing to take, because I knew one of the side effects of antidepressants is suicide. So I kind of thought, well, what's the point of antidepressants if one of the side effects is suicide? So what I discovered is that what I needed more than anything was time alone with myself, to reconnect with myself. And what I needed was fresh air and sunshine. I really just needed some exercise. So I made a point in my day at 6 o'clock in the morning. It's the only time I had any time for myself, to start walking. And out walking every morning, I started getting these insights from what I call my inner therapist. And so I'd been asking myself, how do I fix my life? How do I fix my life? How do I fix my life? How do I get this law of attraction to work for me? Because, I've been hearing about the law of attraction from the secret phenomenon, and I wanted to figure out how to make the law of attraction work for me. And everything I was hearing about the law of attraction made no sense to me at all. So I was out walking and asking, how do I make this work for me? And one morning I was out walking, and there was this sunrise. It was one of the most spectacular things I've ever seen. Now, I looked up, and over the horizon of the houses in my neighborhood, I walked my neighborhood, and the sun was just starting to come up over the horizon. I could see it just above the houses, and it was so bright and so colorful. It was, like almost fluorescent pink, this fuchsia and orange and blue and purple. And I looked up at that sunrise, and I stopped. And it was one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen in my life. And the voice that came through said, begin with gratitude. And I felt so much gratitude for that sunrise. And it started all to make sense to me, that I was grateful for the eyes to see that. And that changed everything. From that moment, I started to get it. That fixing my life began with gratitude. And as I walked, it was amazing. I'm looking at the sunrise, and I could feel gratitude literally engulf me, like a visceral experience, where I felt so grateful to have the eyes to see that sunrise, and that filled me up to the point where I was crying. And like literally gratitude was pouring out my eyes for being able to see the sunrise. And I started walking, and I felt grateful to hear the birds that were singing in the morning, because they were grateful for a new day. And that I had strong legs to carry me on my morning walk. And that I had this nose that could smell the roses, and I would stop and just indulge in the smell of roses. And it just made so much sense to me. That's how you begin to fix it. It's gratitude. And And as I walked, I started understanding that I had been living my life through the eyes of complaining about everything that was wrong with my life. And I was not looking at my life through the eyes of what I had to be grateful for. And in that one moment, I started to get it, that I was grateful to have a house over my head. Even though I might not, a couple of weeks from then, I had a house over my head. I had 2 beautiful children who loved me no matter what. I had a husband. I had 2 cars, one that was getting repossessed. I had 2 cars. I had 1 car that was paid for, so that even if everything else fell apart, at least we'd have a place to sleep.
Right.
Because 1 car was paid for. And from that, I started to see that gratitude started opening a door for me. It started opening the door of hope, that maybe there was something. And that's what gratitude does. It opens, what I call it, opens a gateway to receive more of what it is you desire. And complaining shuts the gateway. And from that moment forward, I started to understand just how powerful gratitude is. And what's really interesting, the other people that I've talked to, clients that I've had, and other friends of mine in my spiritual communities and my support systems, that gratitude, if you can't find a place to be grateful, begin with appreciating the beauty of nature.
It's a beautiful place to start.
And you start with seeing how beautiful nature is, and how loving Mother Earth is, and how no matter what, she nurtures us. And although our life might not feel beautiful, nature is beautiful. And it gives us a place to start. And so I know what it's like to be in the depths of the worst despair and try to find gratitude in that is nearly impossible. I kept asking, what do I have to be grateful for? What do I have to be grateful for? I have nothing to be grateful for in my life. Until that morning and that sunrise, and it started opening me up to understanding that I had so much more to be grateful for than I ever could possibly imagine, because I couldn't go there. I needed the beauty of nature to open up my eyes to what I really had.
So the first step in the law of attraction itself is gratitude.
Well, the law of attraction is only one of the laws of the universe. So one of the issues was that so many people have put so much emphasis on the law of attraction that they don't realize there are a few other things involved in getting what you want in life. For me, that's what my focus was, because I was so desperate for money that I wanted to know how to make the law of attraction work for me, because I needed to figure out how to get money. And so in my questioning of how do I make the law of attraction work for me, the answer that came through was begin with gratitude. And once you start to see how prosperous you actually are, what there is to be grateful for in your life, then it opens up, it's literally like opens up a window to the universe and allows the universe to start giving to you. And as long as you're in the space of complaining and only seeing what's wrong with your life, you shut the door. And it's really a matter of focus. Whatever you focus on, you just get more of what it is you focus on. There's no magic. It's not, you can call it the law of attraction or whatever, but it just makes common sense that if all you're focusing on is everything that's wrong with your life, that's all you're going to see.
Well, of course, it's like putting on the glasses you choose to wear. If you want to look through that lens,
yeah,
that's what you're going to see.
So we call it the law of the universe, law of attraction, the whatever, or magical names for it. When you really think about logical sense,
right,
what you focus on is all that you're going to see. So if all you're focusing on is everything that's wrong with your life, even if there's great stuff coming into your life, you won't see it because you're so laser focused on what's wrong with your life. And so when you start opening the window to gratitude, and you start it's like, you know, laser focus here on everything that's wrong, and then gratitude gives you a peripheral vision. Oh, look at that. There are some things to be grateful for. And you start seeing a bigger scope of what's possible. There's no magic to it.
It's just looking at a painting that has the full spectrum of all the color scale.
Yeah.
And focusing only on the orange.
Correct. So when you start seeing your you know, the rose-colored glasses or whatever you want to call them, as soon as you take off the bifocals and the microscope and start looking at life,
right,
the bigger picture, you'll start to find things to be grateful for. And as you start finding things to be grateful for, you start finding more things to be grateful for and more things to be grateful for.
That's very true.
And in that process, you start to discover just how abundant you really are. And from that space of gratitude, you become more open to receiving more of what it is you want. As long as you keep yourself in this little microcosm focus, anything that you want can't fit in there. It can't even get to you because your focus is so microscopic. So, you know, gratitude, literally, it opens up your heart, it opens up your space, it opens up your life, and allows what it is you want to start flowing.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's really beautiful.
And it starts, I mean, for me and for, you know, for anyone who's watching, if you're thinking, how can I possibly find something to be grateful for? It's in there. And the more you look for it, the more you find it. I start with that. You can start with something that small.
And when you were grateful and you really got it, what started happening to your mood, your thinking, and your being?
It got turned upside down, or technically right side up. I started coming out of that well of depression. Gratitude is so powerful that it can pull you out of depression. Gratitude's one of those love-based energies that I talk about. You know, how that's what Transcending Fear is all about, is rising above all these fear-based emotions into these love-based emotions. And gratitude is at the very, it's one of the core love-based emotions. And love is so powerful that fear doesn't stand a chance in its presence. And gratitude is so powerful that it can pull you up out of that depression.
That is really a good thing.
Yeah.
A good thing for people to know. Because everybody, sooner or later, needs that. They hit bottom, life is difficult, and they need to know a way out that they can do themselves that really works, and that really does work.
It really does work. And, you know, when you're at a point where you can't seem to find a single thing to be grateful for, beauty.
And nature certainly has that.
And nature can give you that.
Yes.
Even if it's looking at beautiful pictures.
Right.
Something that stimulates your senses.
Right.
I mean, we have all of these senses for a reason.
Yes, we do.
Not to deny them, as you and I were taught growing up. You know, human beings have all of these beautiful senses, and when we start to realize to be grateful for touch and smell and sight and sound and hearing, start with that, the very most basic things that we experience as newborn babies. Start with that. And then build on top of that. And as you start building on top of that, there's more and more and more and more and more to be grateful for. And your spirit has no choice to be uplifted.
And that is beautiful.
Yeah.
And it works.
And it works.
And you can do it
like magic.
You can do it without the pharmacy. You can do it without the side effects. you can do it without making yourself sick or distracted from your life till you can't function. And you can do it without anybody helping you. You can do it all by yourself.
All day long, anytime, anywhere. You don't need any special tools. So when your mind starts wandering into worry, you just pull it back. You know, when I talk about changing your life, it's about being consciously aware of our thoughts. That's really the core of all of it, is being consciously aware of your thoughts. So when your thoughts start wandering into I don't have enough, or fear, worry, doubt, shame, blame, any of that, be consciously aware of your thoughts and bring them back into gratitude.
So when you start thinking about something negative, stop and look at it as a challenge to overcome and get positive about it and pull it back into place.
Or change your perspective on it. So here's a perfect example. In this process, I had discovered gratitude, and I was starting to live by gratitude, and asking myself, what in this do I have to be grateful for? Sitting in whatever circumstances I'm sitting in. What can I be grateful for in this?
Right.
And so we were sitting in the bankruptcy attorney's office. And I'm sitting there and we're signing bankruptcy papers. And for me, bankruptcy was the epitome of a loser. Like, I had always believed that anyone who filed for bankruptcy was a total, absolute loser. Like, who couldn't have their life so together that they had to file bankruptcy. So that was a judgment that I had on myself, that only the biggest losers file bankruptcy. And so I'm sitting in the bankruptcy office. Now, we were over $1 million in debt because of these two failed businesses. And there was no way, we did the math, and there was no way we'd ever be able to pay that money back. It would take 2 lifetimes for both of us to be able to pay that kind of money back. So we're sitting in the bankruptcy attorney's office. And I asked myself, what do I have to be grateful for in this? I mean, here I am, I'm proving to myself I am a pathetic excuse of a human being. What do I have to be grateful for in this? And my inner voice said to me, you're being given a second chance.
Of course you are, because you didn't have to pay it back. You were forgiven. That's what bankruptcy is for.
Yes, be grateful that you live in a country where you get a second chance. Be grateful that you get the opportunity to start all over again. Be grateful that you live in a country where your kids won't be held responsible for your financial mistakes, because in some countries that's not the case. In that, I was able to be grateful for bankruptcy. It gave me a fresh start at life. And so I came to the conclusion that if I could be grateful for something as extremely painful as bankruptcy, I could find gratitude in everything.
That's true.
So that's how I started living my life. What can I be grateful for in this? And I started looking at all of my life experiences and starting to extract, what can I be grateful for in that? And in gratitude, my entire life started to shift. My entire perspective of my story started to shift, because I could suddenly see my entire life begin to unravel through the eyes of gratitude.
And what happened after the bankruptcy? Were you more peaceful? Were you able to bring more joy into your immediate circumstances?
Oh, yeah, because it lifted a huge burden off of us. You know, the financial burden on my marriage was really stressful. And I mean, my husband and I had always said that no matter what happens, we have each other. And even in all of that, we would say, well, we have us. If we lose our house and we lose everything, we have us. If we're living in the car with the kids, we have us, no matter what. And But the financial situation was real hard on our marriage. We had a bunch of money. A year earlier, we were completely debt-free. We had a 6-figure income, completely debt-free. About 2 years earlier. And we had money in the stock market. We had money in savings. We had equity in our home. We were traveling. And we went from having this lifestyle that most people only dream of to having absolutely nothing. And we had each other. That was all we had. And that had to be enough. We had each other. And that was enough.
And what happened? You didn't lose your home, did you?
No. So the bankruptcy papers were finalized. We got released from bankruptcy on my birthday the following year. It took, it takes about 9 months for bankruptcy to be released. And that was a great birthday present for me. And our house had been in foreclosure, and we managed, the day before it went to auction, we managed to borrow the money from a family member to pull it out of foreclosure. And we actually had people knocking on our house wondering why people were living there, because it had still shown up in the auction papers. Oh. And we managed to save our home.
Amazing. Amazing.
And, the marriage it was by no means a fabulous marriage, because we were having all kinds of struggle. It started to take some of the pressure off the marriage too.
Sure.
And without that pressure of not having a place to live, not having that hanging over our heads, and not having this $1 million debt hanging over our heads. I think I mentioned that we had lost all of our savings and lost everything in the stock market as well. So we were living off of credit cards, and then even those ran out. So the bankruptcy helped us get back on our feet. And in the meantime, my husband, who I think is one of the most brilliant businessmen in the world, started up another business with a business partner who recognized his brilliance, and he got another business going again, and we started pulling our lives back up again.
Which is extremely challenging. That's kind of a miracle in itself, really, considering it. How many people can do that? Not very many.
Not very many.
That's right.
And it's because, I think a lot of it is because the role that I played was learning how to be grateful. And I fed that more positive energy back into the whole home environment, where before I was a miserable person to be around.
But then when you became grateful, the atmosphere changed.
The atmosphere changed, yeah.
And the circumstances changed, at least to something you could cope with, where you weren't coping with it before.
Right.
You weren't coping with it because you were desperate. You were defeated. But when you became grateful, you said, yeah, I guess I'm not defeated. It's just a challenge.
It's not as bad as I thought it was.
There you go.
Yeah. So I started making a list of what I called my gratitude list every day. And one of the other insights that I got was that the two words I am are the two most powerful words in the English language. They are literally the words of all creation.
There you go.
So I started with my gratitude list, I am grateful for. And so the difference is with stating everything in the language of I am creates a state of being. Rather than I feel is a state of feeling, I am is a state of being. So when I started writing my gratitude list, it was I am grateful for, and started being grateful rather than just feeling grateful.
Right.
It became who I am.
It's good.
Yeah, and it started to shift my life. I am such a big fan of gratitude. I can't even explain what a role it plays. It literally felt like it opened up a window for me to receive more of what I wanted.
And it's a tool literally, that anyone and everyone can use.
Mm-hmm.
Because surely they can find something they're grateful for.
Yeah. It's in every one of us. Yeah, our mind really wants us to find gratitude. It's the reprieve that we're looking for.
It's a very loving and warm and open emotion.
Right.
So it's turning.
And it shows up. It shows up on your face. It radiates out from inside you. You know, when you're walking through life with gratitude, people can feel it. And it does attract people. Go back to the law of attraction. When you move through life in a state of gratitude, people, money, gifts, they find it's irresistible. Because you exude a state of inner joy. And what's fascinating is that from that state of gratitude, I started receiving gifts from out of nowhere. And I started to realize that money doesn't always look like money.
No, because money is just a symbol of what you would have purchased with
Of what I would have purchased. I was able to bypass money entirely and get the thing I wanted because it was like one of the things I had decided was that I was tired of I'm not wearing any jewelry now because of the microphone, but I didn't have any jewelry. And I said, you know what? I am tired of looking and dressing like a man. I'm going to be a girl for the first time in my life. I'm going to embrace my girlness, and I want some jewelry. No, I had no idea how I was going to get it, but I set that intention. It showed up in my mailbox. My neighbor across the street had a bunch of extra jewelry that she gave me. I didn't even ask. I went to a party down the street who had a jewelry party, and I won. And I started thinking, dang, that's how the law of attraction works. It really is just ask and receive. Wow. And that what I wanted didn't have to come through what I thought I wanted was money. What I wanted was what money could get me.
Of course, because money in itself has no value.
Money in itself
is a symbol of a value. It's
yeah.
exchange for a value.
And when I realized that, I started living so much more abundantly. People gave me clothes from out of nowhere. It was like, oh, you know, I have all these great, they still had price tags on them, but they had outgrown them and never bothered to wear them. As you know, another friend of mine said, I have all these clothes. I was just going to donate to the Goodwill. Do you want to try them on? I'm like, yeah. It all started from me understanding that I needed to have a relationship with myself. All of that came from I need to fix me.
Right.
Because I couldn't even see to be grateful for my family until I started working on me. Because even that is an extension of myself. I wasn't, even before the bankruptcy, even before all of that, I wasn't giving, I wasn't able to give the level of love in my relationships because I didn't have it for myself. All of that was a reflection of me deciding that I was the most important person in my life. And I had to fix me first before I could fix anybody else.